Hey, Mr. Wagner here for 7th grade social studies, Wednesday and Thursday, June 3rd and 4th. I'm going over the directions that are up on the screen here. Basically, we're using a couple of different slideshows to fill out a chart. What the chart looks like is a big deal. And it's not the hardest thing in the world. I know some students are going to get worried looking at this thing. Some of the chart has fill in the blanks, some of it does not. So you have the different things on the left side of your chart. Let me make this chart larger. All right, so the thing is a nuclear bomb. Oh my God. That's what you get if you get 25 kills in a row in Call of Duty. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about actual nuclear bombs that becomes like a giant microwave and takes out everything in the area, right? Every human in that area is dead if they drop that there. Used by the U.S. on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of the Japanese part of World War II. So the answer to the first blank is obviously there, but I expect you to write more in it. So then you would type in like, oh, Japan, right? To end World War II. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, in parentheses, right? We dropped a nuclear bomb. No one else had done that at the time. So the fact that we did that makes the rest of the world pretty scared, right? They're like, oh my God. Well, so that's, you don't have to say like the rest of the world's scared because I put that in there for you in the middle. The arms race is going on between USSR and USA. Anyone else who can make a nuke can talk on their level. You think of like the cool kids and the not cool kids, right? So if you have the nuke, then you're one of the cool kids, and then you can go to like the cool kid table at lunch, and you can negotiate with the other cool kids. And if you don't have the nuke, you can't, and you just deal with it, right? Those who have power dictate what's happening, and those without just deal with it, is a famous quote from ancient Greece of all places. So it still applies. So once the United States got nukes, you can't negotiate if you don't have it, and then if you do, you have two choices. One of you throws the first punch and tries to nuke the enemy, but then the enemy is going to send a counter nuke, and then whoever is friends, they're just right. The idea is that most of the world would become, desolate of human life because there would be a nuclear winter. It basically becomes like so much blocking out the sun from a nuclear weapon that there is no sun getting through, and it becomes like a wasteland, and nothing can grow there, and there's radiation in the air. So if everybody's friends took sides, like a middle school fight, right? Got my back, bro. Then you'd have so many nukes launched eventually with close to, is there double-digit countries with nukes? That's debatable. The effect on the world is if you have that, so then other countries try to get that. If I can get a nuke, I can negotiate with Russia and the USA. USA had it first, USSR invented it too later, or borrowed it, or somebody helped get the plans on how to do it out there and was tried as a spy. That's a fun read. Depends who you ask. But once USSR and USA have it, then other countries try to get it, right? So today, India has nuclear power, Iran has nuclear power, North Korea, China, and a couple others, right? So if you have this, then you can help out, and they really launch these, and you take out entire areas. The problem with doing that is you kill all people, and there might not ever be sun again. It'll be negative 100 degrees everywhere on Earth, and that'd be terrible. So it's the end of the world. So don't really want to do it. But the threat of it can make people listen. We're starting to learn about the Cold War, and the Cold War is a time when the United States and Russia both had it, or U.S. Soviet Union. Sorry, that's what they used to be called, USSR, Soviet Union. So if we both have it, you can either end the world and human existence, and maybe people go underground and survive, and maybe they don't, or you can do everything else but nuke and fight in different ways all over the world. So the Russian action is that they also get a nuke, right? And then they also try to antagonize the United States, and make us live in fear that we will get bombed all the time. So the idea is, this is the 40s, 50s. You can't even launch a nuke as far as you can today, but you still can't launch it all the way around the world. I don't know if it's the amount of rocket fuel, but it just isn't done yet, and it's 2020, so hopefully it stays that way. You can launch one from the one they always talk about is North Korea could probably hit California if they wanted to, but can't hit DC. If you can hit somebody's capital anywhere around the world, that's really dangerous. So right now, the best you can do is the equivalent of firing from China, Japan, or North Korea can hit California. And you can be like, oh, well, who cares? It's not our coast. The other idea was having missiles that are surface-to-air nuclear missiles. It means they come out of a submarine. The submarine comes up, launches it, boom, can hit DC. And that was always the worry with another one on here later on. It's called the Cuban Missile Crisis. Near Cuba, Soviet Union was kind of hanging out and making friends and alliances and whatnot. So the idea was they could possibly hit DC. You can hit DC from Cuba and Washington, DC, and that's scary stuff. That's like the end of the world kind of stuff. The best part is during this whole time period that we'll learn about later, the answer was having like fire drills in school, except you'd have, all right, everybody, get under your desk. And they'd have like an alarm. And it'd be like your grandparents might tell this story. And the idea was, if you hide under a desk, we'll be fine. Well, not if you're getting nuked, because if you're nuked, you're either underground or you're microwaved to dust. So probably not would have done that much, which always makes me laugh whenever I see like 1940s, 50s or 60s videos, black and white. Must have been 50s. And they're like hiding under their desk, all these children, right? Like, oh, hide under your desk. Oh, that's going to help. But how do I fill these out? This is me talking about one of them, right? But like, where do I fill these out? How do I get the answers, Mr. Wagner? In today's assignment, there it is. There are 2 slide shares you can look at. One of them links into here, and that is the second slide share. Okay, let me show you. But I'm going to show you this one. How would I do that? It's not a link for some reason. Aha. No, I can't. I'm not allowed to link it for some reason. I don't know what happened there. I'd have to copy and paste this if this is really like this, or maybe it goes live once I publish. But this slide share is a little bit more easy to understand, less in depth, and it only covers so many. But if I want to talk about I'm skipping all through this slideshow, and you're like, why is he doing that? It hurts my eyes. Nuclear war. Each side thought the other was trying to rule the world. Neither side would give up. People lived in fear that another world war would erupt. Nuclear war could destroy the entire planet. Began to form alliances. Okay. All right, where's the part about nuclear war? So this is first slideshow. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm backwards. Wouldn't be the first time. Wouldn't be the last. I do want to show you this slide. This slide is important because the idea of a Cold War is the Russian-Soviet bloc wants to spread worldwide communism or do anything they can to hurt or block the United States. The United States and its friends want to spread contain communism, and if you want to really do well in our world, you have to do democracy, like our form of government. And we didn't actually fight or shoot guns or explosives at each other. That's a picture of a nuclear bomb test. No, none of that. What we actually did, we had that there in case you're going to go there, playing like a game of chicken when the cars running at each other. We did espionage. The KGB was the Russian version of that, and the CIA is our version of that. And there's all kinds of like counterintelligence and giving the wrong information. An arms race where we build up nuclear weapons and how many you have and where you can launch them from. Can you launch them from subs and from the ground? Obviously, if we're fighting Russia or Soviet Union in the 1950s, having one in even aimed from California, I don't think we could possibly hit the Soviet Union yet, especially Moscow capital. Even if we fired from Fort Dix, McGuire Air Force Base over here in 1950, I don't think you'd be able to hit. It'd have to be a nuclear sub. I could be wrong. I have to do more research, maybe. Competition for the minds and hearts of the third world. So the third world, you got to understand this. I don't know if kids have ever really talked about this. So we're the first world. The United States is the first world. United States, Russia, England, France, Germany, some say Canada, depends who you ask. They're considered first world countries. China kind of skipped a few steps there because I think China might still be considered a second world country, but they kind of jumped past that to first world country. Second world countries would be like India. Some say China. Oh, first world country would be Japan. Second world countries are like strong, but they also have a lot of parts of the country where there's like no running water type of stuff going on. So Ukraine might be considered second world. And then third world countries are ones that are like Vietnam, all the ones where the wars were, right? Afghanistan, Vietnam. They don't have a really good GDP economy because they haven't industrialized a lot yet. They have lots of parts of the country that are like farm with no running water, people living like they did thousands of years ago. Lots of parts of the Middle East might be considered this. Israel's like second or first world though because they were the United States' buddy, so it's complicated. But Vietnam, we had a war in. Korea, before it split, well, this kind of caused it to split into the Korean War. Third world countries. So competition to make sure that they're like your friends. And I mentioned before, the invention of zombie movies was actually propaganda by the United States against thinking communist thoughts and becoming brainwashed by the Russians to become a communist. So that's the eating your brain zombie thing actually was invented as a way to scare Americans from giving in to the brainwashing and propaganda of Russians. They'd be the zombies, the Russians. Crazy, right? So that domino theory is something you're going to see. Domino theory, it says basically if you let communism go into Vietnam, then it might go into Thailand and all the other countries down there. I'm trying to think. I'm not really big on Southeast Asia. Vietnam, Thailand, the Koreas, China is already communist. Russia's communist. So it's just going to spread all over Asia, and then it's going to like Pac-Man go, I guess, west into. It's already in half of Germany, but I guess it would keep going into Europe, and then everybody would be communist, and communism hates democracy. So then the U.S. would be in danger. So domino theory is why we kind of went into the war in Korea and Vietnam. And the NATO versus the Warsaw Pact. NATO is a group of countries including England and France and the United States and those type of countries that are West Europe versus the Warsaw Pact. Warsaw is the capital of Poland, and it was there's like these other countries in the way that would be like Poland, Bulgaria, Ukraine. Well, no, Ukraine was actually part of the Soviet Union, but the countries after that, East Germany, because Germany was divided in half, are areas that are communist, kind of like dictators or despots, are put into place by the Russians, and then they are used as countries where, like, so that you can't safely get into Russia as a CIA agent or whatever, and then it's like our team versus yours. Yeah, we're going to team up, right? You grab your friends, I'll grab mine. Let's go then. So that slideshow, this slideshow is okay. I thought it was this slideshow. I'm going to go back into the lesson for the day. Don't worry, I didn't take my allergy medicine. That's all that's going wrong with me. The Cold War. This is the one. This is the massive slideshow. Later on, there is a slide just about nuclear warfare. This one's so good because it even has the communist revolution. for whatever reason, they put nuclear warfare as like one of the last slides. It makes no sense to me. But this does details on everything you could need for this. The arms race, nuclear weapons. The USA was the first to introduce it on July 16th, 1945, and that's the kind of information that you want to put into this chart. You don't want to do as little as possible. You want to do as much as possible and save this chart. Not only is this chart for my class, and probably counting it as a formative assessment grade, but you can use this in high school. I guarantee if you stay in high school long enough, you will learn this again, right? Nope. Brain fart. There we go. USSR tested its nuclear weapons in September, so 4 years later. Great Britain possessed it on October 3rd, 1952. France, China, etc. Somebody's copycatting to be able to talk and negotiate with the big boys. Nuclear bomb, the symbol of power. There's the nuclear bomb. Arms race between the two powers. You see the USA. You see, that looks like the Soviet Union was kicking our butt. But in order to spend so much to make this, it started to bankrupt the Soviet Union. That's what helped us win the Cold War. The Cold War space race. All right, so then that's it. That's the idea behind nuclear weapons. Those bombs, they can annihilate, and if you have it, people are just fearful of you, and they'll do more negotiating with you. That's called hard power, is actually using the nuclear bomb on Japan. Soft power is when you just say, listen, we have to get military might here, or are we just going to negotiate? That's soft power. Okay, so you would fill out the chart. I believe day 1, it only says for you to do the first 3. Am I right? The first 3? Nuclear warfare, division of Germany and Berlin airlift. Oh yeah, and nuclear warfare. In case you're having trouble with it, that is, I talked about it a lot, and it's also split between the two slideshows. The really awesome slide was in the black slideshow that has, it's the link, and I'll add the other slideshow as a link. I don't know why it isn't linked. And then the second part of this lesson is all in the large slideshow. I'm not doing good at clicking here today. Right there, that's the linked one. This is when you definitely use it on the second day you're doing this, or the second half of doing this, if you do this all at once, because this is really interesting stuff. And the first half, you can use a different slide share. I'm going to try to go on and talk about all these. I'll talk about the next one right now a little bit, and then I'm out. Okay, division of Germany. Da-da-da. I better undo my answers if they're going to be in there, and you're not going to do any work. Okay. Division of Germany, 4 parts, 1 each controlled by, there's 4 countries: United States, England, France, and Russia, or Soviet Union. Each get a piece. West Germany is democratic. East Germany is communist. The Russians did not follow the rules because they were supposed to only do the northeast part and the eastern half of Berlin. But they started controlling the whole city of Berlin. So you have to explain that right here. When you control the whole Berlin and you block supplies coming in from the other 3 parts that are trying to get to Berlin, then you're violating an agreement you signed. So that's the division of Germany. And the Berlin airlift was when the French, the British, and the American sides were bringing supplies into Berlin and dropping them in like care package, right? But like care package out of like a plane. Not very good helicopters yet. The Cold War gets more serious, and there's an Iron Curtain forming. And then if I'm right here, what did the Russians do? They actually blockaded, and it's in very good detail how they've made like the wall, right? And the wall became East Germany, West Germany, communist on the east side, West is democratic. Not only did the wall went through the center of the city of Berlin and divided Germany in half. And that's just a little more than they needed, bit off a little bit more than they could chew. And it made everybody upset and caused the Cold War. I'm tough. We know you're tough. Well, look how tough I am. Well, do you really need to do that? And Germany was just too much of a mess in rebuilding to be able to deal with anybody just taking their stuff. So if there's a fun fact for the Berlin airlift, you could add, so there's a lot of facts in both slideshows about the Berlin airlift. You could add the fun fact right there. And right here, this is the first half of the assignment. Okay. The second half of the assignment is right here. It's verbatim. It's right out of the notes. And then you would just fill these in quickly. What did the Americans do? What did the Russians do? In my opinion, the space race is actually backwards because it's the one where the Russians actually did do it first. They sent Sputnik, which was pretty small, but it was like an unmanned satellite up into satellite. Is that what you call it? Up into space first, so then they beat us at something, and we were like, no. So then we're like, we're gonna go one better than you. We'll land people on the moon. That's kind of why that happened. We didn't choose to do that because of curiosity. So basically, you're defining these by using cause and effect. What is it? Is usually the American side, except for the space race, kind of started by the Russians/Soviet Union. Any questions or comments, you can just send an email or a message below the directions for this chart. And I wish you good luck. How to say that in по-русски, in Russian, удачи. Удачи means good luck. Пока.